Did you know Joan Crawford allegedly made her daughter call all her boyfriends uncle, and Clark Gable was accused of a scandal that Hollywood kept quiet for decades? From Marlon Brando's shocking treatment of co-stars to Jerry Lewis' disturbing behavior on set, Hollywood's golden age was full of dark secrets behind the glitz and glamour. Here are the 25 most evil actors of Hollywood's golden age. 1. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, but her personal life was far from glamorous. Her daughter, Christina Crawford, wrote a book called Mommy Dearest that revealed a very different side of her. In the book, Christina says that Joan cared more about her acting career than being a good mom. She also claimed that Joan became an alcoholic in the 1960s, which made her behavior even worse. Christina shared some shocking stories about their family life. She wrote that Joan had relationships with several men, and Christina had to call them uncle, even though they weren't family. Joan was also very controlling. Christina said this didn't stop when she grew up. For example, in the 1960s, Christina was acting in a soap opera called The Secret Storm. When Christina had to take time off because of surgery, Joan took over her role without even asking. Christina felt this was because Joan was jealous of her career. Things didn't get better even after Joan passed away. Christina and her brother Christopher were shocked to find out they had been left out of Joan's will. Joan wrote that this was for reasons which are well known to them, but Christina believed it was just another example of how unfairly Joan treated them. 2. Bette Davis. The feud between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford is one of Hollywood's most famous rivalries. It all started with something small. Joan Crawford's divorce overshadowed the release of Bette Davis's first big movie, Ex-Lady. The movie didn't do well, and Bette blamed Joan, even though it wasn't really her fault. Later, things got worse when Joan married Francho Tone, a man Bette was in love with. Over the years, their rivalry grew. Joan got 2 roles that were originally meant for Bette, including Mildred Pierce, which won Joan her only Oscar. Bette once said, "Miss Crawford is a movie star, and I am an actress," making it clear she didn't think Joan was her equal. In 1963, they starred together in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It was a hit, but filming was a nightmare. They fought constantly, and things got physical. In one scene, Bette actually hit Joan, and in another, Joan made herself heavier to hurt Bette's back. Even after filming, the drama didn't stop. Bette got an Oscar nomination for the movie, but Joan didn't. Instead, Joan went on stage to accept the award for another actress, which upset Bette even more. When Joan died, Bette reportedly said, "Joan Crawford is dead." Good. 3. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was one of the most famous actors of the 1930s and 1940s, best known for his swashbuckling roles in movies like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. But behind his charming on-screen image, his personal life was full of controversy. One of the biggest scandals in his life happened in 1942, when Flynn was put on trial for statutory rape. 2 underage girls accused him of inappropriate behavior, and the trial became a huge media story. Even though Flynn was found not guilty, his reputation took a big hit, and many people looked at him differently after that. Flynn was also known for being a womanizer. He had a lot of relationships and affairs, often with much younger women. While some saw him as a ladies' man, others thought his behavior was reckless and irresponsible. His attitude toward relationships didn't always show respect, and he made comments that would be considered very inappropriate today. On top of that, Flynn struggled with substance abuse. He drank heavily and used drugs, which caused problems in his life and on movie sets. His addiction made him act erratically at times, and it affected how people saw him. 4. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, one of Hollywood's most famous stars, is known for his iconic roles in films like Gone with the Wind. But his personal life has a darker side, especially when it comes to his relationship with Loretta Young. In 1935, Gable and Young starred together in the movie Call of the Wild. During filming, Young, who was just 23 at the time, later revealed she was a victim of date rape by Gable. At that time, the term date rape didn't exist, so she didn't even know how to describe what happened to her. It wasn't until she was 85 years old that she learned the term and realized that's what had occurred. After the assault, Young became pregnant. Since this was during the 1930s, being an unmarried pregnant woman in Hollywood could destroy someone's career. Young went to great lengths to hide her pregnancy. She left the spotlight for a while, and when her baby girl was born, she placed her in an orphanage temporarily. Later, she claimed she had adopted the child, allowing her to reunite with her daughter without raising suspicion. Young kept this secret for most of her life, only opening up about it near the end. The story is both shocking and heartbreaking, showing how difficult it was for women to speak out about such incidents back then. 5. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was one of the most famous actors and filmmakers of all time, but his life wasn't without a lot of drama, especially in the 1940s. During this time, Chaplin faced accusations of being a communist, which was a big deal back then because of the Cold War. People were scared of communism, so these claims caused a lot of backlash. On top of that, Chaplin's personal life made headlines for all the wrong reasons. He was involved in a paternity lawsuit where a woman claimed he was the father of her child. Even though he denied it, the case hurt his reputation. Chaplin also married several times, and his wives were often much younger than him, which many people found scandalous. These things, combined with the FBI investigating him, led to him being forced out of the U.S. in 1952. After leaving, he moved to Switzerland and never lived in America again. Chaplin eventually moved away from the tramp character that made him famous and focused on new types of movies. 6. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando is known as one of the greatest actors of all time, but his personal life and behavior, especially toward women, were far from admirable. One of the most well-known stories comes from actress Rita Moreno, who dated Brando for nearly 8 years. She described their relationship as both exciting and incredibly painful. Moreno revealed that Brando mistreated her in many ways, and things got so bad that she once tried to end her life while at his house. She said that Brando could be extraordinary, but when it came to how he treated women, he was a bad guy. Another troubling story involves Brando's behavior toward Maria Schneider, his co-star in Last Tango, in Paris. Schneider later revealed that Brando and the director filmed a non-consensual scene without informing her in advance. She said she felt humiliated and angry about it, and the experience stayed with her for the rest of her life. Moreno has said that during her time with Brando, she didn't have the confidence to stand up for herself and described herself as being like a doormat. She now looks back on that time as one of sadness and struggle. If you think these stories are intense, wait until you hear about the dark secrets of John Wayne. From skipping military service to shocking interviews, there's a lot you might not know about the Duke. 7. John Wayne. John Wayne's big break came when he worked with director John Ford. They made many famous movies together, but their relationship wasn't always smooth. Ford often insulted Wayne, even mocking how he walked. During World War II, Wayne didn't serve in the military, which upset many people. He claimed he wanted to join, but said his wife hid his draft letter and that his studio threatened to sue him if he left. Some saw him as a draft dodger, and even Ford called him out on set for not having real military experience. Wayne became very political, especially in the 1950s, when he supported anti-communist efforts and worked with the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, to blacklist filmmakers accused of being communists. Many Hollywood stars criticized him for ruining careers, but Wayne defended his actions, calling them patriotic. His views on race were also controversial. In a 1971 Playboy interview, he made comments supporting white supremacy and criticized civil rights activists. He also defended America's treatment of Native Americans, calling them savages and saying it was justified to take their land. 8. John Barrymore. John Barrymore was infamous for chasing women, no matter their age. One shocking story involves Mary Astor, who was just 14 years old when Barrymore seduced her in 1920. Another controversial relationship was with Evelyn Nesbit, a famous showgirl. Evelyn became pregnant during their affair, but since she was also involved with another man, Stanford White, Barrymore didn't take responsibility. Instead, White arranged for a secret operation to deal with the pregnancy. Evelyn's life took an even darker turn when she married a wealthy but unstable man named Harry Thaw. Thaw became obsessed with her past relationship with White and eventually murdered him in 1906, shooting him 3 times in a crowded restaurant. The case became a massive scandal, with newspapers calling it the trial of the century. Barrymore's behavior reflected his chaotic lifestyle. His struggles with alcohol made him unreliable, and his mistreatment of others left many feeling hurt and betrayed. Despite his talent as an actor, his personal life was filled with scandals that tarnished his reputation. 9. Fatty Arbuckle. Fatty Arbuckle, one of Hollywood's first big comedy stars, was at the center of a huge scandal in 1921. He was accused of harming actress Virginia Rappe during a wild party in a hotel room, leading to her tragic death. According to a woman named Maud Delmont, who was at the party, Arbuckle pulled Rappe into a private room after they had a few drinks. She claimed she heard him say, "I've waited for you 5 years, and now I've got you." About half an hour later, Delmont said she heard screaming and forced her way into the room. She found Rappe lying on the bed, crying and in pain, saying, "Arbuckle did it." Some accused Arbuckle of hurting her because of his size or even using a foreign object. Arbuckle was arrested and charged with murder, and the story blew up in the press. Newspapers went wild, and some even said it sold more papers than the sinking of the Lusitania. His movies were pulled from theaters, and the public was divided. After 3 trials, Arbuckle was finally acquitted, but his career was ruined. 10. Lana Turner. Lana Turner, a famous actress from Hollywood's golden age, was involved in a huge scandal in 1958 when her boyfriend, Johnny Stompanato, was killed in her home. Johnny Stompanato was 32 and had a bad reputation. He was a former Marine and had ties to the Cohen crime family. He and Turner had been dating for about a year, but their relationship was filled with arguments and abuse. On April 4, 1958, things escalated during a fight at Turner's Beverly Hills home. According to Cheryl, she overheard Stompanato threatening her mother, so she grabbed a kitchen knife to protect her. When Stompanato entered Turner's room, Cheryl stabbed him in the stomach. After the incident, Cheryl turned herself in to the police and was sent to juvenile hall. During a coroner's inquest, the stabbing was ruled justifiable homicide, and Cheryl was cleared of any wrongdoing. She was later released and placed under her grandmother's care. The public was divided. Some believed Cheryl's story, while others thought Lana Turner might have been the one who stabbed Johnny, with Cheryl taking the blame to protect her mom. Johnny's ex-wife even filed a lawsuit for wrongful death, asking for $750,000 in damages. The case was settled years later for $20,000. 11. Gloria Grahame. Gloria Grahame was a famous actress in the 1940s and 1950s, best known for playing mysterious and dangerous women in film noir movies. One of the most shocking moments in her life happened in 1951. Gloria was married to director Nicholas Ray, but their marriage ended when he allegedly caught her in bed with his 13-year-old son, Tony. The gossip was explosive, and it damaged her reputation. The scandal got even bigger years later when Gloria married Tony in 1960. At that point, Tony was an adult, and they even had 2 children together. Their marriage lasted 14 years, making it the most stable of her 4 marriages, but it was still heavily criticized. After the 1950s, her career slowed down. Most of her work was on TV and in British theater, far from the Hollywood spotlight she once enjoyed. Gloria's life ended tragically in 1981 when she passed away from cancer at just 57. 12. Frank Fay. Barbara Stanwyck, one of Hollywood's greatest actresses, had a tough life, and her 6-year marriage to Frank Fay was one of the hardest parts. Fay, a former stage star, was an abusive alcoholic who made her life miserable, both at home and in her career. Barbara married Fay when she was just 20 years old, and he was 15 years older. At first, she admired him, but things quickly turned bad. Fay would drink for days and pick fights, even in front of their young adopted son. He yelled at the child and once came home drunk and almost smothered the baby in his crib. Barbara had to threaten to leave before Fay would even show up to the adoption hearing. At home, Fay's rage scared Barbara. He sometimes forced her into dangerous performances on stage, which left her injured. She suffered from hip and back problems and had to sleep strapped to a board to ease the pain. Despite all of this, Barbara kept working hard to support her family because Fay was wasting money on parties and unnecessary renovations. Things got worse when Fay spent all their money, even stealing from Barbara's purse. One time, she had to borrow $5 from her maid just to go out. On top of that, they owed thousands in taxes because of his reckless spending. Eventually, in 1935, she divorced Fay and went on to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars. The scandals just keep getting bigger. Coming up next is the shocking story of Jean Harlow, Hollywood's blonde bombshell, who stopped at nothing to stay on top. 13. Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow was one of Hollywood's brightest stars in the 1930s, known as the blonde bombshell for her stunning looks and charm. She became famous for her roles in movies like Platinum Blonde and Dinner at 8, but behind the glamour, she was also known for being competitive and sometimes cruel to other actresses. Harlow was determined to be the center of attention, whether on set or at Hollywood parties. If she felt another actress was stealing the spotlight, she didn't hold back. Some people said she would spread rumors or use her influence to make sure she got the roles she wanted. She was ambitious and didn't mind stepping on others to stay on top, which earned her a reputation for being ruthless. But her life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. She had a troubled personal life, including a failed marriage and family issues. Many people believe her tough behavior was her way of dealing with the pressure and struggle she faced. 14. Orson Welles. Orson Welles was one of the most talented filmmakers in Hollywood history, known for his groundbreaking movie, Citizen Kane. Many people consider it one of the best films ever made. But while Welles was a genius, he also had a reputation for being difficult to work with. Welles was known for being very confident, some would even say arrogant. He always wanted things done his way and didn't like listening to others. On movie sets, he was often controlling and demanding, which frustrated his colleagues. Some actors and crew members felt he didn't respect their ideas or hard work. This attitude caused problems and made it hard for people to work with him. One example of his behavior was during the filming of The Magnificent Ambersons. The studio wasn't happy with the movie, but instead of working with them to make changes, Welles refused to compromise. In the end, the studio re-edited the film without him, which hurt both the movie and his career. Even though Welles was talented, his domineering attitude often burned bridges with important people in Hollywood. This made it harder for him to get funding for his later projects, and he spent much of his career struggling to make the films he wanted. 15. Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier was one of the greatest actors of all time, known for his amazing performances in movies like Hamlet and Wuthering Heights. But while his acting career was legendary, his personal life was much more complicated. He was often controlling and dismissive, especially toward his wives and colleagues. Olivier was married to actress Vivien Leigh, famous for her role in Gone with the Wind. At first, their marriage seemed perfect, with both of them being huge stars. But behind the scenes, things were very different. Lee struggled with mental health issues, and instead of being supportive, Olivier was often cold and distant. Some people say he even mistreated her emotionally, which made her struggles even harder. On set, Olivier was known for being very controlling. He had a specific way of doing things and didn't like it when others challenged him. This attitude made him difficult to work with, even though his talent was undeniable. Some colleagues felt he looked down on them and cared more about his own success than working as part of a team. 16. Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock is one of the most famous movie directors of all time, known for making suspenseful classics like Psycho and The Birds. But behind his genius, he had a dark side. One of the most talked about stories involves Tippi Hedren, the star of The Birds, and Marnie. Hitchcock discovered her and made her a star, but he reportedly became obsessed with her. On the set of The Birds, he forced her to do dangerous scenes with real birds attacking her, even though she was terrified and hurt. Hedren said Hitchcock made inappropriate advances toward her, and when she rejected him, he tried to ruin her career by refusing to let her work with other directors. Hitchcock also treated other female stars poorly. He had a specific image of what he wanted his actresses to look and act like, and if they didn't fit his vision, he would humiliate them. People said he would criticize their weight, appearance, or acting in front of everyone, making it hard for them to work with him. 17. Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn is remembered as one of the greatest actresses in Hollywood history, known for her strong, independent roles in films like The Philadelphia Story and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. She was famous for being bold and confident, but her personality sometimes came across as arrogant. Many people said she looked down on her co-stars and thought she was more talented than most of them. Hepburn had a unique style and attitude that made her stand out. She wore pants when most women wore dresses and spoke her mind, even if it upset people. While this made her a role model for being herself, it also made her hard to work with. Some co-stars said she acted like she was better than everyone else, especially if she didn't respect their talent. Her strong opinions didn't stop with her co-stars. Hepburn wasn't afraid to challenge directors or producers if she didn't like the way things were done. While this showed her passion for her work, it also earned her a reputation for being difficult. Some people admired her confidence, while others thought she was too full of herself. 18. Betty Hutton. Betty Hutton always wanted everything to be just right. She worked super hard to make her performances perfect, but this often caused problems on set. If something didn't go the way she wanted, she wasn't afraid to speak up. While her drive made her a great performer, it also made her difficult to work with for directors and co-stars. Some said her temper could turn small disagreements into big arguments. Her need for control sometimes rubbed people the wrong way. She would push herself and others to their limits to make sure everything met her high standards. While some admired her dedication, others felt like she was too intense and hard to please. Despite these challenges, Hutton's energy and talent made her a huge star. Audiences loved her bright personality and over-the-top performances. But behind the scenes, her strong personality often created tension, and as her career went on, it became harder for her to find work. Betty Hutton's story shows that being a perfectionist can help you succeed, but it can also make relationships harder. We're not done yet. Coming up is the shocking story of Jerry Lewis, a comedy legend whose bad behavior left co-stars stunned. You won't want to miss this. 19. Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis was a famous actor and comedian, best known for his slapstick humor and big Hollywood movies like The Nutty Professor. He became a huge star in the 1950s and 1960s, but later in life, some shocking accusations came to light about how he treated women. Several women who worked with Lewis shared that he behaved inappropriately toward them during the peak of his career. Actress Karen Sharp, who worked with him in The Disorderly Orderly, said he attacked her in his office during a costume fitting in 1964. She claimed he grabbed her, touched her inappropriately and even unzipped his pants. When she pushed him away, Lewis got angry and told the crew not to speak to her. Another actress, Hope Holliday, said Lewis invited her to his dressing room, locked the door, and began saying inappropriate things. She was terrified and didn't know what to do. This incident left her feeling depressed and scared to speak out because Lewis was so powerful in Hollywood. Writer Renee Taylor also shared that Lewis had a reputation for mistreating women. Lewis's comedy duo with Dean Martin made him a star, and he signed one of the biggest contracts in Hollywood history. But the stories from women he worked with revealed a darker side of his life. 20. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman was one of Hollywood's biggest stars in the 1940s. She was loved by audiences for her natural beauty, charm, and clean-cut image. Her performance in Gaslight even won her an Academy Award for Best Actress. But everything changed in 1950 when a scandal shocked her fans and ruined her reputation. Bergman admired Italian director Roberto Rossellini's work and wrote to him in 1949 asking to collaborate. He cast her in his movie Stromboli, and during filming, the two started an affair. Both Bergman and Rossellini were already married. Affairs weren't unusual in Hollywood, but Bergman's virtuous image made the public's reaction even worse. Things became even more scandalous when it was revealed that Bergman was pregnant with Rossellini's child. The news spread like wildfire in newspapers and tabloids, and fans who once adored her now criticized her harshly. America was shocked, and Bergman's career took a massive hit. Studios didn't want to work with her, and she lost film offers and brand deals. 21. Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein was one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood, but in 2017, shocking accusations about him changed everything. Journalist Ronan Farrow reported in The New Yorker that Weinstein had been accused of inappropriate behavior by 13 women and of serious misconduct by 3 others. These allegations were just the beginning of what became one of Hollywood's biggest scandals. Farrow revealed that Weinstein had used his power to control and silence women. Some actresses said that after rejecting Weinstein's advances or speaking out against him, they were removed from projects or blacklisted in the industry. Many of Weinstein's former employees admitted they had seen or heard about his behavior, but felt they couldn't speak up because of his influence. To make things worse, Weinstein didn't just rely on his power in Hollywood to silence his victims. Farrow found out that Weinstein had hired private investigators and intelligence agencies, like Black Cube, to spy on women who were speaking out and on reporters investigating him. These spies tried to gather information to stop the truth from coming out. One of the most disturbing pieces of evidence was a 2015 audio recording where Weinstein admits to groping a woman named Ambra Gutierrez. This recording and the stories of his victims exposed how long he had been abusing his position. 22. Wallace Beery. Wallace Beery was a big Hollywood star in the 1930s and 1940s, but behind the scenes he had a reputation for being a bully. Stories about his behavior show a much darker side to his life, and many people who worked with him didn't like him at all. One of the most disturbing stories involves his wife, Gloria Swanson, who was also a famous actress. Swanson said that Beery abused her and even tricked her into taking something that made her lose their baby. Beery's bad behavior didn't stop there. He was also known for picking on others, even child actors. Margaret O'Brien, a little girl who starred in many movies, was one of his targets. It's shocking to think of a grown man bullying a child, but Beery reportedly had no problem doing it. While Wallace Beery had a successful career and won an Oscar for The Champ, his personal life was full of cruel actions that hurt others. Many of his co-stars and colleagues saw him as a bully who cared more about himself than anyone else. 23. Faye Dunaway. Faye Dunaway, a legendary actress known for movies like Bonnie and Clyde and Network, has recently been accused of treating her assistant very poorly. Michael Rocha, who worked as her assistant for a Broadway play called Tea at 5, said Dunaway verbally harassed him while he worked for her. His job included managing her schedule, reminding her to take her medicine, and running errands. Rocha claimed that during this time, Dunaway constantly yelled at him and made mean comments about his sexuality. She reportedly called him a little homosexual boy and said similar things to other workers. Rocha even recorded some of these comments as proof. Feeling humiliated, Rocha reported the abuse to the play's management, but instead of fixing the situation, they fired him 2 weeks later. The reason they gave? Dunaway was not comfortable working with him anymore. Rocha has since filed a lawsuit against her in Manhattan Supreme Court, accusing her of creating a toxic work environment. This isn't the first time Dunaway has faced complaints about her behavior. Over the years, there have been other stories about her being difficult to work with, but this recent accusation has drawn a lot of attention. 24. Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead was a famous actress in the 1920s and 1930s, known for her bold personality and wild lifestyle. While she was incredibly talented and starred in movies, plays, and radio shows, she was just as famous for her sharp tongue and love of partying. Bankhead had a way with words, but her blunt and often sarcastic comments made her both entertaining and intimidating. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind, no matter who she was talking to, and this earned her a reputation for being a troublemaker. Some people found her wit charming, while others thought she was rude and difficult to deal with. Her social life was just as dramatic as her acting career. Bankhead was known for throwing huge parties and living life on the edge. She drank heavily, smoked constantly, and didn't care about following Hollywood's rules. Her rebellious nature made her stand out, but it also caused problems for her professionally. Studios didn't always want to work with her because of her unpredictable behavior. 25. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra, also known as Old Blue Eyes, was one of the most famous singers and actors of all time. With hits like My Way and New York, New York, he became a legend in music and Hollywood. But behind his charm and smooth voice, Sinatra had a reputation for having a bad temper and some shady connections. Sinatra was known for being passionate, but that sometimes turned into anger. He had a short fuse and would blow up at people if things didn't go his way. There are stories of him yelling at journalists, throwing tantrums, and even breaking things when he was upset. This made some people scared to work with him, even though he was incredibly talented. Another thing that made Sinatra intimidating was his rumored connection to the mob. He was friendly with people who were allegedly involved in organized crime, and this gave him a powerful and sometimes scary reputation. Some say his mob ties helped him get certain roles or performances, but Sinatra always denied these claims. Which of these stories surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into the darker side of Hollywood, don't forget to give this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more unbelievable stories from the world of entertainment.